Okay, so we're going to start back in the chart because there's a note that we need to make. We got cut off in the last video. So on page 111, an SS officer came into the barrack and Ellie's dad wouldn't stop moaning for water, so the officer clubbed him over the head. And when Ellie said that the blow was lethal, that means that the blow was hard enough that it probably should have killed his father, given how sick he was, but it didn't, because he says that his father was still groaning. Once more, he heard his father say his name, and that he could see that he was still breathing. And Ellie was just too terrified to move when the officer did that. So he just stayed there, pretended he saw nothing, he heard nothing, and didn't act out. Now, before we keep reading, I pulled up a couple pictures. So, first, this is the entrance of Buchenwald. It's still there. Okay. A lot of it was destroyed, but the main entrance and the main gate where everyone would have entered through, that's still there. So that's the entrance of Buchenwald. And then this is the crematorium, again, still there. So you've got the electric fence and the stone perimeter. And then this was the crematorium. So you've got the chimney that Ellie says they saw when they came in. And that's where they burned the bodies of the dead. And then this, again, there's the entrance to Buchenwald. Trying to get you a picture of the crematorium because it's one of the ones that's still standing. So there were some nicer prisoner of war cells, but then Ellie and his father obviously lived in the kind of shack style, the long barracks that just had the wooden plank bunk beds. This is the inside of the crematorium. It's one of the only crematoriums still in existence. So these tracks on the floor, they actually had carts that would line up with the tracks. And the cart at the end of it had like a tray that would have a body on it. And they just put the tray slide it right into the oven and shut the door. And then this is actually Elie Wiesel on the day that Buchenwald was liberated, because Buchenwald was the last concentration camp that he was in before he was freed, and that's him. That's him on the day that he was liberated. And you see the man standing up, how thin he is, how thin this man is. They've got their heads on their bowls because they had to keep their bowls and their utensils for their food with them at all times. Okay, so let's get back and finish up this section. So his dad's beaten. He says he didn't move. When I came down from my bunk after roll call, I could see his lips trembling. He was murmuring something. I remained more than an hour leaning over him, looking at him, etching his bloody, broken face into my mind. Then I had to go to sleep. I climbed into my bunk above my father, who was still alive. The date was January 28th, 1945. I woke up at dawn on January 29th. On my father's cot, there lay another sick person. They must have taken him away before daybreak and had taken him to the crematorium. Perhaps he was still breathing. No prayers were said over his tomb, no candle lit in his memory. His last word had been my name. He had called out to me, and I had not answered. I did not weep, and it pained me that I could not weep. But I was out of tears, and deep inside me, if I could have searched the recess of my feeble conscience, I might have found something like free at last. So if we go over to the night chart, we'll make a note under Ellie's mental and physical state. So on page 112, Ellie's father has finally died, and Ellie feels relieved because now he can look out for himself. He's free to just live for himself, and we'll put the date in there because he cared enough to put the date, so we're going to care enough to put the date. So January 29th, 1945, Ellie wakes up to find his father has been brought to the crematorium. Okay, there's only one section left, and it's short, and you'll do that next week.